Hello, everyone that is joining us. And it looks like we are streaming live on YouTube. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube, my name is Ricky Shabazz. I have the honor and privilege of being the president of San Diego City College. And College Council is the highest level of governance at San Diego City College, where we have leaders from the various constituency groups on campus to include faculty, supervisors, administrators, students, and our classified professionals. If you would like to bring an agenda item forward to College Council, you can do so one or two ways. You can email one of the great constituency leaders on campus that you'll meet in a little while. I'll do an introduction, or you could do so by emailing the president's office. I am going to introduce you all momentarily to the new person in the president's office. I want to congratulate Aaron Flanagan, who is on a working out of class opportunity to serve as a professional development coordinator for the SPA group. So happy for Aaron, and equally happy that we have someone who's going to be filling those very, very big shoes, not literally, but figuratively, while Aaron has that opportunity. Bear with me as there are still members of College Council coming into the meeting. I'm not sure if we meet quorum yet. Caesar's going to be helping. And Caesar, if you could share the agenda so that I can begin the roll call, and that'll allow us to assess who is in the meeting. Again, I am here, Ricky Shabazz, president of San Diego City College. I don't believe that I see Paul Alexander, past president, academic senate. Rose is standing in for Tilly, the vice president of instruction. Rose is one of our amazing deans. I think I saw Rose. So as I call your name, if you'll unmute yourself and identify yourself.
Hello, this is Rose. I'm here.
Thank you, Rose. Robbie is our chair of Institutional Technology Council. Okay. Caesar is here. He's controlling the webinar. Thank you, Caesar. He's our information officer. I do not see Jocelyn. Nadia is our president, chairs the cabinet.
I'm here.
Susan, Dean of Institutional Effectiveness and Chair of Improv.
Present.
Masa, Administrative Representative.
Present.
Victoria is our new Student Government President. I don't see Victoria. John Parker is standing in for me in another meeting. This has been a day of being on 3 Zooms at the same time. Oh, Victoria is there. Victoria is our president of Associated Student Government. Marciano is the acting vice president of students.
Present.
And Darius is the interim president of the academic senate.
Present.
I believe we meet quorum, and joining us at the very perfect time is the backfill for Aaron Flanagan in the president's office, and her name is Janelle Rodriguez. Janelle, you want to introduce yourself to College Council and those who are watching live on YouTube? Oops, and I will come back to Sean Ryan.
Hi, present.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Sean. Janelle, would you like to introduce yourself to College Council and those watching live on YouTube?
Good afternoon. My name is Janelle Rodriguez, and as Ricky stated, I am filling in for the person that was here before me. So nice to meet you all. Thank you for, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you. No reason to be nervous, Janelle. These are just friends, your San Diego City College family. You'll get to meet them at some point, either virtually or in person. And as we mentioned, Janelle is filling in for Aaron Flanagan, who is working on a professional development project. So we are happy for both of them. Aaron gets an opportunity, and Janelle gets an opportunity as well. So she'll be undergoing training here over the next couple of weeks. And she just literally received her email. So we'll send out an email to the campus. Caesar, if you can work with Janelle to get an email out to the campus directing folks to communicate to her attention if they would like to connect with the president's office. Again, welcome, Janelle. These are your City College family members who represent various constituency groups. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you would like to present an agenda item, you can communicate with one of the individuals who we just introduced. And that also includes Janelle, who will be helping to put together this agenda moving forward. Would like to begin with approval of the minutes from August 31st and September 14th. And I want to thank Aaron Flanagan because she put together these minutes. Would someone like to make a motion for approval of the minutes? And if you could do so by unmuting yourself and saying your name, that would be a great help.
This is Caesar. I approve the minutes.
Thank you, Caesar. We've got a first from Caesar. Would someone like to second the motion?
This is Nadia. I'll second it.
Thank you, Nadia. We have got a first or second. Any further discussion on the meeting or edits to the meeting notes from August 31st and September 14th? Hearing none, something I learned from Masa. If you would use the participants, no, it is not there. I am seeing something different because we're on a webinar.
Yeah, we don't have the yes, no features or any of that.
Darn it.
We can raise our hands, maybe.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Nadia. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, this is different. It's because we're using the webinar feature instead of the regular Zoom. So if you would raise your hand in support of approving the minutes, and if someone would like to either abstain or be in opposition, let us know. We would gladly. It looks like the motion carries fully. Thank you all. We've approved the minutes. Super excited about item number 3. We have one of our great faculty members and one of our great managers at San Diego City College to share some good news. Good news is always good, and this is great news. In fact, that the college has been awarded 2, not just 1, but 2 HSI STEM grants that are going to greatly help our students matriculate and transfer and achieve success in the sciences. And so it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. McGray and Dr. Sanchez. And I'm not sure which of you are going to go first, if you did rock, paper, scissors or figured that piece out, but they're going to provide a brief overview on their respective HSI STEM grants. Well, Heather's the first in my screen, and so plus she's a UC Davis person. I'm sorry, Dr. Sanchez, gotta go Aggies.
I can go first, that's fine. I'm going to briefly share my screen and quickly share my screen with you. Give me 1 second. I put my little flyer in the chat so you're able to see it as well. The one that I'm sharing right here. So as most people know, Latinx students are more likely to enter STEM education pathways through community college than their white counterparts, who are more likely to enter through a 4-year institution. And while recruitment in the STEM field is typically representative of the college demographics that you're looking at, persistence is not. So persistence is typically lower for our Latinx students than for our white students. So we know that programs like summer research fellowships substantially support STEM student persistence and sense of belonging. And even some recent City College data suggests that City College students that participate in summer undergraduate research programs actually transfer at double the rate of other students. But we also know that traditional summer research programs sort of occurred too late to catch a lot of students who may leave the STEM pathway, because they happen typically around the time of transfer instead of more early in the student's path. In addition to this, many more traditional programs require students to volunteer excessive amounts of time that are unpaid and potentially spend money on things like travel or research materials. And that's not really financially feasible for most of our students. So we formed a partnership with San Diego State University and Southwestern College and developed a pathways program that seeks to support STEM persistence for underrepresented populations, starting when they are freshmen and supporting them all the way until they start STEM careers. And we're doing this by providing opportunities that are coupled with both peer and academic support. So this program was funded for $3.8 million over a course of 5 years. A large portion of that will come to City College every year that will support our work here, but a lot of it will actually go directly to support student stipends so that students are funded through this process directly. So we're going to be identifying yearly a cohort of STEM students, about 15 STEM students a year from City College. They're going to be participating in a introduction to research class that's hosted here at City College. And then this will prepare them to enter an independent research program at SDSU. So they're going to be getting support at City College while getting the opportunity at SDSU. Students will be matched with professors that fit their topics of interest. They'll be paid for their work and their time in these internships, and they will be matched with peer mentors as well as graduate student mentors. So they're supported this entire time that they're participating in this research. The program is also coupled with curated support depending on the student's needs. So there'll be a peer support group that happens at the community college, as well as peer and academic mentors that are going to meet their needs at San Diego State. And students will get guaranteed transfer to San Diego State in their STEM degree, and then continued support throughout their entire time at San Diego State through their graduation to support them with whatever career path that they're interested in following. So we're really excited to start this program in the next academic year.
Thank you, Dr. McGray, and super excited about that opportunity. I believe we're going to pivot over to Dr. Sanchez, and then we'll take questions from the group after Dr. Sanchez.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for having me. I'll share my screen as well, just to have a couple of slides. I mean, I think most of you, we've been here before in presenting key content in relation to this Title III, which has both the Hispanic Serving Institution component and that population, but also now in connection with STEM. So for us, being able to work with it in terms of what has been done in the past, especially through our current Title V grant, has been great. And I think it was a very collaborative process. We just want to highlight again, I shared this the last time I think I was here, in terms of the group who was there throughout the process. I think this is the majority who was there, but we were in contact with some other key folks who also participated in the process. Dr. McGray is one of them, Rafael from the MESA program as well, some previous deans, who are not retired. So we definitely try to make sure that we get folks involved across campus, because this is a collaboration across campus. It is something that we know that is not going to work if we don't come in as a support system for the students. And one of the things that we like about this grant is that it is going to focus on both the academic side and the student services side, or the student affairs side, to be able to support this population holistically. So I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit of kind of that abstract synopsis of the grant, which is really, we're looking at student-centered programs that's going to continue to work with this population. And we want to see students graduate in degrees in STEM fields. And we're going to be able to do it by providing the support systems being plural, very key word in terms of creating different systems across campus to support this population. And then again, not just creating the foundations in STEM and getting them interested in STEM, but the goal is to make sure that with our partners that they are able to transfer and complete those degrees in STEM. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time disseminating the grant because I know I've shared those pieces before here, but I did want to share a couple of highlights. So one is similar to the other one. It is a 5-year grant. This one is about $1 million a year. We're looking at starting in October 1st, so in a couple of days, all the way until September of 2026. The priorities of this grant guidelines were to create stronger relationships with 4-year institutions. And so we were able to get a partnership with University of California at San Diego, with a couple of their areas that focus with undergraduate students primarily as they transition into UCSD or in the STEM fields and careers interests. They're definitely being able to provide a work-based learning experiences, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a second. And then again, the academic side of a student experience, and then also be able to integrate some student support services. So what this looks like, it was created 2 components. One is that, again, the curriculum piece. How can we connect some of our STEM courses with our Chicano studies courses to make sure that the students understand that part of their identity is also going to be part of their STEM identity. We talked about having that as an identity. Being a STEM student is part of their identity as a student. And so we're going to work with our faculty to make sure that these courses are pairing on a yearly basis. And so they're going to take some time working on the pairing, and then the following year, they're going to be implementing it. The component 2 is going to focus a little bit more on the outside of the classroom experience, but not completely disconnected from the curriculum side. So we're going to be looking at, we already have identified a space in the S building that was previously, as supporting students as a lounge space in the S building 4th floor, but now we're going to be able to have the funding and the resources to enhance the technology in there. And then next door to it, we're actually going to create a maker space where students are going to be able to, the word that we were using, kind of tinker around with the equipment so that they can get their hands-on experience with this equipment that sometimes they may not have access to. It's going to be able to be connected to a class, or for them to just be able to, use the equipment, of course, in alignment with the student space that's going to be next door. And we're hoping that we also include students, the peer mentors, and tutors in that space so that they can co-create and co-learn from each other. The next piece will be the internships, very similar to what Dr. McGray is saying. Internships and summer opportunities are so critical. And one of the things that the federal government allowed us to do this time around is to actually pay students for these things. A lot of our students, we know that cannot take the time to participate in these things when they're free and they don't have financial incentives. So it's something that we want to advocate for in the grant in terms of having students to get paid through incentives or some sort of financial incentive or stipend so that they can participate in these experiences rather than getting a second job or third job because they need that. So these 2 components are going to be something that's going to be new, not just in the federal government, but for us as well. And then the last piece is, again, that summer bridge component. And City College has had different summer bridge components, but in this case, we are going to heavily work with UC San Diego. And then we're going to have 2 different tracks because we know that this grant it has 2 tracks. One is to focus on getting students interested in STEM. And then the second piece is to keep them in STEM. So our goal is to have these 2 tracks where some of our students are going to be just because they've been identified as having some sort of interest in STEM. So we're going to put them in that track. And then students who have been at City and have taken some STEM courses and are looking for the next level, the motivation, we're looking at the retention efforts of that group. And so we're going to look at those 2 pieces. So yeah, so more to come, exciting things ahead.
Great job to both of you. And again, I commend you for your efforts to bring in literally millions of dollars to support our great faculty, classified professionals, supervisors, administrators, and certainly our students who really will benefit from these resources, because we know that students who enter into these STEM fields have an earning potential that will ultimately change the lives of themselves, their families, and the communities. So I commend you all. Are there any questions for Heather or Adon? Well, that just means you all did a stellar job. Thank you all again for everything you do for our college. I appreciate you all updating us on these two grants, and I look forward to getting more information when they go to board and we can begin to use these resources in support of our students. Take care. Next, I am equally excited and want to acknowledge Dr. Dee Armstrong. And I don't know how many of you all are aware, probably all of you. She's been at our college, a standard at our college, but Dee is a product of the nursing program, as I understand it. And now here you have Dee leading the nursing program as the associate dean. And speaking of leading, we have visits for our certification or ability to continue to offer the great nursing program at City College. And so I just like Dee, thank you, Dee. I wasn't sure you were going to be here. She literally has people on site. And again, this is a testimony of her leadership, but she's going to provide a brief overview that we have a visit. And I know we're using the term accreditation. I was corrected on that today, and that is we have visits to maintain our ability to be state certified to offer a nursing program. Dr. Armstrong? And you're muted still, Dee.
Thank you, President Shabazz. This week is amazing for me. We have our accreditation, and it's a joint accreditation with ASIN, and ASIN is the Accreditation Commission for Education and Nursing, which is ASIN, and we have the California Board of Registered Nursing, our BRN, who regulates us in our practice and to uphold the regulations. And the last time we was accredited nationally by ASIN was in 2013. So that's 8 years ago. And with the BRN was 2016, 5 years ago. So we are honored to have a joint accreditation, and we are the first community college in San Diego to have this joint accreditation. So I am so honored to be a part of this historical event. So today we was honored to have President Shabazz and our amazing VPI Chavez, have a meeting with our accreditors, and it went amazing. And also we was able to meet with Dr. Parker, Dr. Lopez, and Dr.
Sanchez.
Sorry, Adon, and Marciano, which they did amazing job too. And I have to give kudos to Sandra at the library. I mean, she was just amazing. And so I'm just so honored. We had a public meeting today. And what was so amazing is that Debbie Berg, who was our retired associate dean in nursing, who retired back in 2016, came and supported the public meeting. So I'm just honored. And then tomorrow we will have meeting with the students as well as with faculty, and all are welcome to attend our exit meeting, which they will give us our results on Thursday at 10 o'clock. And I'm gonna post that on our nursing website. So please come, all are welcome. So far everything is going really well, so I'm excited.
Great, thank you, Dee. Any questions for Dee about how really monumental this is? And it really She deserves a lot of kudos for having these two organizations come in and do the visit at the same time so that they're hearing the same information. And I would assume it was more work on the front end and during, but on the back end, that means we have one less visit to prepare for. So we folks, we do have the best nursing program that I've ever seen. And it's because of the faculty members. They are personable. Our students love them. They love the students. They are diverse. And so I am all. And one of the many things that San Diego City College is known for is, in fact, our nursing program. So thank you to Dee, and please extend my appreciation to all your colleagues in the nursing program for the wonderful work that they do. Any comments? Hearing none, thank you, Dee. Nadia, was that a hand? That was kind of a, okay. Well, I saw a thumbs up. That's it. We can all give Dee.
I did want to say congratulations, and it's nice to hear a little bit about how it differs a little from what, I guess, from the rest of the other accreditation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nadia.
Well, thank you, Dee. Enjoy. I know you've got a bunch of work to do. Again, extend our appreciation to your colleagues for all the work that they do. We are now going to turn it over to Marciano and Dottie. We are getting a lot of questions about COVID-19 communication protocols and contact tracing. And so Marciano and Dottie are here to provide an update. Thank you, Marciano and Dottie. And if we can unshare.
All right, well, thank you all for allowing Dottie and I the opportunity to speak briefly and to share with you all a little bit of our COVID-19 protocol, notification protocol. So I'm gonna go ahead and share screen. Dottie and I have been working with Daniel in our office to create a little bit of a workflow so that folks, we had a lot of questions about what happens when someone notifies the campus of an exposure. And so we thought the simplest way is to kind of create this workflow that would show people what we do. So whenever a case is reported or determined, either via when students are testing at Biocept, whether we're notified by the public health department. So Dottie will get direct notification from public health folks. Somebody might self-report, meaning that they'll come and let us know. They'll let you as an instructor know, or let a staff member know that they've tested positive, or we'll find out from risk management through some other avenue that they may have been notified. We get that notification, and then we start what we call our notification cycle. So upon notification of the case, so Vice President of Student Services, the Vice President of Administrative Services, Vice President of Instruction, and our Student Health Clinic Director are all notified so that we know whether if it involves just students, does it involve students and faculty, does it involve employees of the college, and each of us has a different role in that, depending on who is exposed or potentially exposed. Assuming that there are students involved, the VP of Student Services and the Vice Chancellor of Educational Services, we share information, meaning that we're able to pool class rosters. I work with our admissions and records team to identify when our students enrolled in any classes that are meeting on campus. We try and find out when was the last time a student had accessed any services on campus or had been on campus. And then we begin our inquiry process by that. So you can see that after we begin the inquiry process, we try and determine again, like what classes are exposed, what departments the student may have visited, or a staff member may have gone into. Our Vice Chancellor of Educational Service then runs the rosters of the names. And then there is a letter that is sent via the Vice President of Student Services to Susan Topham's office. That's then mailed to the students. And Dottie and I worked on this letter. And I will say Dottie was consulting a lot with Dr. Carroll in the creation of this letter. We really tried to make the letter clear and succinct for our students, tried to make sure that it wasn't something that was going to be super scary, but really outlining what we expected our students to do. So it tells them if they need to quarantine, it tells them if they need to isolate, what the difference between isolation and quarantining is. It tells them that they must show us a clear test before they return to campus. It gives them a date. If there is someone that has tested positive, it tells them when's the next date that they might be allowed to return to campus, assuming that they would have a negative test to show. So the letter is pretty clear. It gives them, again, a lot of information. If they are a student that's been in a class that may have been exposed, again, it tells the student that they may have been exposed, and it tells them on what day the possible exposure may have happened. And then again, it gives them the steps on if they're vaccinated, what they need to do, if they're non-vaccinated, what they need to do in terms of quarantining or isolating. And then the last thing that happens there is, let me scroll down a little bit here, is that when students are sent the letter, it also lets them know that they can work with our student health to, if they have questions. So if they have questions about testing or about symptoms or anything like that, then Dottie and her team are well prepared to meet with students, talk to them via phone, and answer their questions. We know that sometimes it sounds scary when you get this letter saying that you may have been exposed. So students might say, well, what does that mean? How would I have known, or anything like that? So Dottie and her team do a great job of kind of de-escalating that for students and making sure that they understand that we take all of these things serious. We're going to always err on the side of caution, and so we're able to give them some resources, not just send them a letter and say you've been exposed, but we also give them some great resources. And Dottie has included a number of resources in the community that they can, and websites that they can access. Also, if they have questions about symptoms or things like that. I'm not sure if there's any other questions that folks may have. Again, there's a little bit difference. You'll see on this portion over here, if it involves employees, there are things that are related. Karen Woods in risk management typically will work with any employee of the district who may have been exposed or tested positive. And she works with them directly about getting them their workman's comp claim set up. She helps them with testing and all kinds of things in terms of when they're allowed to, if there are someone that has been coming to campus regularly, she'll work with them about when the next time they can come and what they need to do to clear before they come to campus. And we provided some basic information. We have all of this information on our website, the COVID information website that the district has, as well as the college.
Marciano, you may not be able to see, but Darius has his hand up.
Okay, yeah. I will stop sharing and I will answer any questions.
No, I could have waited until you were finished. I
it.
just had a question though about, so is there a campus or district policy regarding student accommodations, incompletes, or is that just left to the discretion of the instructor? And what if it isn't the instructor, him or herself, that's exposed? And has to quarantine for say 14 days, do we, resume on Zoom, or is there a general guidance or policy on that?
Yeah, so both great questions. So if it's on the student side, we do ask that that the faculty, should use their discretion to work with the student to hopefully allow them to either continue in the class. If they're allowed to, sometimes our students that have tested positive are asymptomatic. They may have already been vaccinated, and so they're showing very little symptoms to no symptoms. Sometimes the students are really sick and they may need to drop the class. And so we ask the students, we'll work with the students to work with the instructor to decide what is the best option for that student to complete. We do have the opportunity, we can electronically we can do an excused withdrawal for a student for COVID related matters. And so we would work with the student, but we would wait to decide whether that's in the best interest for the student. We know that there are implications to financial aid when students drop and things like that. So we'll work with them on that. On the instructor side, I can say that that your dean for your school would work with you to decide what's the best course of action. And the ones that I've seen them get subs. For some of them, I've seen where instructors have continued to be able to move things online and continue to meet with students online. It really just depends on the instructor and what they're willing to do, how they're feeling. Again, whether they're symptomatic or asymptomatic. But Karen would work with the faculty member to make sure that that they're doing what's best for the faculty. We clearly don't want somebody working if they're sick.
And
If I may, Marciano
Yes.
or President Shabazz, I just wanted to give a lot of credit to Marciano in his leadership role. We've been working through this process, and with Marciano's guidance and some mad skills on Daniel Velasquez's part, this flow chart has been implemented a number of times. The challenges, as you guys know from having lived through this, is the high transmissibility and the timeframes that we're working under. And again, with Susan Topham, Vice Chancellor of Ed Services, and Marciano, we are getting this to be a finely oiled machine. And I think what's important for all of us to know as professors and people at a college is that it's done as carefully as we can with regard to HIPAA and FERPA mandates, and just would ask, as you work through and share this tool with peers and faculty members, that we always be real careful with that as we're emailing notification. But again, huge thanks to Marciano for getting this nailed down, because this disease is challenging, you guys. It usually is that public health calls the campus with, you've got a measles, or you've got a mumps, or a pertussis, or a TB. And this is that these come in all different ways, and we've kind of got to wrangle the cat, or whatever you do. But again, thank you to everyone, and always let students know that we will handle emails or phone calls to answer any of their questions. And we try to help direct them about testing inquiries or things that they're having trouble with. But thank you.
No, thank you, Dottie and Marciano. If we could unshare, I did email this to the group, and I want to also acknowledge Dottie and Marciano, and also apologize that we didn't send this to you ahead of time. Moving forward, we'll do our very best to get any attachments that we go over. And so you should have an email with the document and an MSI document that Marciano is going to go over a little later. I would like to ask Dottie and Marciano to work with Darius to present this document to the Academic Senate. I know when I visited, it came up as a concern. And I want to be clear that we hear people's concerns about how things will be communicated and who gets to know who has been vaccinated and not. And Marciano, I would also ask you to do the same with the classified Senate, so that our constituency groups know how the process works and can weigh in. One of the things I have heard is, and this goes to Dottie's point in terms of HIPAA, who has the right to know? And it really is those that are in an immediate risk. Those in a classroom, in an office, who have come into contact with that person. And even then, you don't get to know the person's name. You get to know that you've had an issue or a potential exposure. And the reason why I bring that up is we are so fortunate to have Dottie, who has extensive experience, frankly, doing this. Maybe not in a COVID environment, but I've seen it at least 2 times since I've been here, and I've been impressed with the way that Dottie really jumps into action in the way we come together as a campus, Marciano and his team, and all the necessary offices. So we have experience notifying people when there has been a potential exposure, whether it be COVID or measles or mumps or some of the other things that happen because we're a college campus. The other thing that I have enlisted Marciano in working with Dottie, because this has become a full-time job ultimately, is bringing somebody in to help with contact tracing. We have these HER funds that frankly, Dottie, you should have some relief with some of this. And so Marciano is going to be working with you to identify, whether it be an adjunct, whether it be a NANS, that somebody comes in and this is their job to work alongside you, with you, to communicate to the groups who do need to have some kind of communication. And I say that to say, because I sent a letter to the campus today a lot of this is on the job training in terms of the frequency in which communications need to go out. Again, we've done this before. It's the volume and frequency in which we're having to do it that requires us to bring in someone else or additional help. Because, believe it or not, Dottie has some other things that she'd probably like to be doing in addition to, following up on potential exposures. Any questions? Hearing Marciano and Dottie will be fine tuning this document. I think if it's not complete, it's very close to being complete, and they will send it out to the campus. In the meantime, Marciano, please work with Sean and Darius to present the document with our 2 cents. Again, thank you all for your leadership. And I'm going to transition into number 7, which is an overview of SB 169, the Higher Education Student Housing Grant program, where the state has allocated nearly $500 million over 3 years to build affordable housing on community college campuses, CSUs, and UCs. And you talk about being in the right place at the right time. We have a plot of land on the C and 19 that was our former Child Development Center that I believe and many believe would make a great plot of land to build affordable housing for our students. And if we can develop a partnership with the city who has money for affordable housing, potentially what I would really like to do in addition to providing housing for students is offer 5 to 10 units for our lowest paid employees, our facilities folks, some of the folks in student services, who frankly in this environment of San Diego, cost of housing might never be able to afford a condo or a townhouse. And so Dr. John Parker is spearheading this effort. The trailer bill link is here in the agenda. It was emailed out to the campus. Please read it. The turnaround time is quick. The application is due to release the first week of October for the first, because I mentioned 3 years. The first 200 million is going to be released in the first year. And I would love for City College to be one of the first community colleges. 50% of the $500 million is going to go to community colleges. And then there's a ratio between the UCs and CSU. The housing for the student side has to include housing for veterans, foster youth, justice impacted students. Well, we have programs for all 3 of those areas. And so I sent an email earlier to Marciano and John requesting that John schedule meetings with city scholars, with our Next Up program and our Veterans Center to get the leads in those offices in alignment, in tune, updated in what we're doing. We're also very lucky that we were working in the midst of working on a facilities master plan that included housing. Now, you notice I'm not using the word dorms. We do not want dorms. What we want is affordable housing. Well, what's the difference between a dorm and affordable housing? We don't want to put 5 or 6 people in a space, and we definitely don't want to run it. What we want to be able to do is build it and sign a contract with a community agency to run it, that the space is only accessible by our students and or our employees if we're able to build a relationship with the city. This money, just to be clear, this $500 million is strictly for student housing. I was just on a phone call, John and I, with the city. Last week, we were on a call with the mayor. We believe we're well positioned with that plot of land to potentially do some housing, affordable housing for employees. That is my goal. That is my desire. And John and I are going to do everything in our power to try to be able to do both at the same time. That may also include joint use projects at the base of what could be, what would you say, John, between 200 and 500 units, depending on the construction configuration. John, you want to add to the discussion?
Yes, depending on the size of each of the units, they have SROs here in city, which requires a special approval, single residence occupancy. So there are still a lot of questions to be answered in determining. We were hoping, Ricky, initially for 500 to 1,000. It'll be closer to 500, give or take 100 or 200 units or so. But the architects are working on that as we speak. I did meet with the principal architect yesterday, and we did discuss. So they're working on that now. They're the same folks that are working on the facilities master plan. So they have a lot of irons in the fire, but this one here is very pressing. As President Shabazz mentioned, the deadline is the end of October to get these in.
Yeah, so before we open up the questions, what we're hoping to do, or what we do know from the trailer bill, that there will be two options, and we plan to apply or submit an application for both options. One option is what is known as shovel ready. This is a project that could be ready to be built in a year. That's pretty aggressive for us, but because we were working with a facilities master plan, we believe it's worth the good old college try to go after one of the shovel ready projects. If in fact we don't do that, the second option for the application, as we understand it, is for funding to do an environmental study and to research the likelihood. So a planning grant is what I'm trying to say. And so I envision us, by way of John Parker and the individuals who represent these respective programs in item 7C, which are veterans, foster youth, justice impacted students, would in fact, thank you, will in fact submit an application for those respective areas. Thank you, Caesar, for reminding me that I skipped item 5, and that's probably because I don't have my glasses on. So let me put those on. Before we go back to item 5, Caesar, if we can unshare any questions about SB 169 before we go back to Dr. Sanchez and Latinx, Chicanx Heritage Month. Any questions about this housing grant? If there are no questions, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sanchez to provide an update on Chicanx, Latinx Heritage, Indigenous Heritage Month. So I believe, Dr. Sanchez, we've added Indigenous to that group.
Maybe in the near future, I don't think we officially did it for this time around.
Okay.
But I think it's something that we're looking at, and I will highlight that a little bit more because we are trying to create, events, programming, services that really impact, our student experiences, and really being able to take our student stories and clearly, intentionally support our student populations, but really invalidating their existence, understanding who they are, and really uplifting their experience. So, so we're working, with, again, campus members, anyone can create something like this to support our student populations and also our colleagues. I think it's something important to also recognize our own colleagues, faculty, classified professionals, administrators. We're all part of these identities and need to be represented in this as well. So thanks to the support of Kim and Caesar, we were able to create, in this case, a Google document to be able to make sure that we have everything live in our marketing materials. So you can see that QR code on your screen where you can actually access the Google document. You will send via email as well, a couple of times already, I think by now. And it has a list of events that, again, are hoping to support our student population, our colleagues, in a way that is uplifting, And I did want to take the time to identify 2 different events that are happening in October. And it really is thanks to Dr. Shabazz in terms of connecting us with some great folks in the region. So one of them is Maria Garcia. She's an alum and wrote this book, We Made San Diego. So we were able to work with her to have this kind of book reading presentation with her on October 4th. So we invite you all to attend that event. And then also later that same week, we're actually have this great opportunity to highlight some of our regional presidents and chancellors in the area, in as well as our own California Community College acting chancellor. And so it's a great opportunity for us to hear their stories. It's something that we're going to focus on their leadership style and how they immerse that with their identities, and being able to, really support advocacy work from, informal processes that they've done to all the way to now using their formal positions and positionality to be able to create positive change for our students across the California Community College system. So it's a great opportunity for us, and we're looking forward to it. And so I think the last piece that I want to highlight on this is, like I said at the beginning, we are trying to highlight more of our student experiences in a positive way, and we'll go beyond what some of the criticism that even myself have had in the past for some of these celebrations and monthly components, in terms of it's focused too much on the food, the fun, and the fiesta, right? And so we want to make sure that through our efforts in the Student Affairs Office, and also in collaboration with the intercultural centers, is that we want to also highlight our student experiences and some of the real issues that are affecting their daily lives. And so we want to make sure that we highlight those experiences. We want to highlight these issues that are still very relevant to their experiences, because these things outside of the classroom are impacting how they show up to our classes and to our campus. So we hope that we can partner with folks across campus, whether it's in the instructional side or student services, or other areas as well, so that we can create these efforts. And so we'll be looking to create some future programming. I know right now, literally right now, we have a student panel happening in relation to our Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander student population. There's going to be the counter panel next week in terms of having some employee voices talking about their experience. And then down the road this semester, we're already looking at how to do a first generation college student celebration in November, because it's a relatively new date that's been highlighted now. Also in October, we have Undocumented Student Action Week. And then, closer to the middle of the semester, we're actually going to start looking to already the spring semester, and starting with Black History Month, Women's Art Story Month, to ensure that folks have time to plan ahead and create some good components for our campus community. So thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, thank you, Adon. And what you are doing really is important. And what Adon didn't touch on that I think is important is Adon is called to bring together the diversity committee, the equity committee, social justice, and a lot of these committees who really are comprised of the same people, to look at aligning these efforts around programming so that there is greater participation, there's greater awareness, there's greater communication. And I look forward to coming to that first committee meeting, because we have put thousands of dollars into the programming of the wonderful efforts that are already underway on campus. So thank you, Adon, for your leadership. Any questions about the programming? Great. Let's, Cesar, bring back the agenda. Well, actually, I know what's next on the agenda is Marciano is going to provide an update on the MSI 2 and 3. This is a voting matter, and we're going to take them separate because I understand there have been some discussions about MSI 3. So Marciano, and you all should have a copy of the spreadsheet, which Marciano is sharing.
All right, so I have before you MSI 2 allocation. So this went before the MSI committee or the work group, and they were able to look at it. They gave their blessing of MSI 2. There was really no questions or concerns over how MSI 2 was allocated. So we just need to bring MSI 2 to a vote so that Dr. Parker can then get out the letters to folks that have been awarded during that. And in this one, the MSI work group has about $200,000 that they'll be allocating, and they're meeting next week, I believe. And then they have about $91,000 in MSI innovation grants, and they'll bring forward how they'll receive proposals for that portion of the funding.
Any questions for Marciano on the MSI 2 allocation, which is $713,000? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion for approval?
Ricky, I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Robbie. We've got a first by Robbie.
Darius Spearman, I'll second.
Thank you, Darius. Any further discussion on the MSI 2 funds, which do include the ability for innovation grants that will be put out by the committee? And I'm sure it'll be a relatively simple application process that aligns with our mission and goals and objectives as a college, so that if you don't see your name there as receiving an allocation, you have the potential to apply for some of those funds. No further discussion. It looks like if you are in favor, if you would indicate so. All those in favor, raise your hand. And because Caesar has us using the webinar, you have to raise your hand that way. There we go, raise hand. Anyone in opposition or who would like to abstain? Marciano is abstaining, although you can vote in this case, even though you brought it to the group. That's fine. So Marciano is abstaining. We have that for the notes. Motion passes. MSI 3, Marciano.
All right, for MSI 3, we've got the committee or the work group. I'm with Ricky. All this committee work group thing gets really confusing. So the work group was able to look at it. They are going to meet again next week. Some of the concerns that came back really centered around should we be sending students to Africa trip during the middle of a pandemic? And also there was some concerns about the conferences and whether there was an ability to maybe fund conferences that were going to be more virtual versus conferences that were going to be requiring folks to travel, given some of the restrictions that we have and things like that. So they had asked if there was an ability to be able to come back and maybe offer different conferences that we could support with the money that were more virtual and that would allow folks to not have to travel. So that was one of them. And again, the second one was related to the Africa trip. There was concern about sending students during a pandemic to another continent.
Yeah, so if we can unshare, and I'm going to ask Marciano to set up for me to go to the committee, because when we look at our Latinx students and Black students and who participates in study abroad, we know that it's not them. So here we have a unique opportunity to send a group of students, and having taken a group of students out of the country, know what it entails to have them get a passport, have them go through those processes, and then experience another culture. I mean, to me, that's education at the highest level. And so I'm going to make an appeal to the committee to reconsider and also to learn. I'd love to learn what their concerns are. Frankly, the countries that they would be going to don't have COVID any worse or better than the United States. And in fact, to get into those countries is actually more challenging than it is to get into the United States now. And so what I would like to do in terms of the motion is that I'd like you to approve the motion as it is. And then if the group, in fact, decides to use those resources for another reason, which is their purview, then we'll bring it back, just that piece of it. We won't bring the entire thing back. We'll bring just that piece of it. I'm committed to finding the resources to take at least 2 of our students out of the country. Adon is not here, but Adon and the group, to include Justin Akers, Dr. Justin Akers, and Dr. Beto Vasquez, are actually working on an NSF grant where we want that. And I believe, Darius, you're involved in that grant also, or someone from Black Studies. And we're writing into that grant the ability to take a group of these students to Mexico to go visit the pyramids there, and to Egypt, because we're trying to teach Latinx and Black students and other students who come in believing they're not good at math, and their ancestors built some of the wonders of the world using math. So again, I was not in the meeting to have those discussions, but I'd love to know the context because it does have a profound impact on a student who has never traveled internationally to go visit and experience another culture and then come back home. With that said, I'd like to see if someone would like to make a motion to approve the budget. And I apologize, Darius is saying he's not part of the STEM grant at the moment. Would someone like to make a motion for approval of MSI 3?
Hi, it's Darius. I'll move to approve it.
Thank you, Darius. Would someone like to second the motion?
This is Sean. I'd like to second the motion.
Thank you, Sean. We've got a first or second. Any further discussion? And folks, please feel free to disagree with me if you don't think that our students should experience international travel, many of which could never afford to do a trip like this on their own. Darius.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that having been involved with student travel abroad at a previous institution that specifically focused on Black and Brown students having the chance to travel abroad to Cuba, it is an enormously valuable experience that brings a lot to the campus. So it's not just the students that benefit from it; it's the campus as a whole that benefits. I fully support this.
Yeah, thank you, Darius and Marciano. If we can make arrangements for me to go to the committee, or if you think you could go and advocate, because it's a legitimate concern in terms of travel during this time. But I have to say, I've traveled more during COVID than I have prior to COVID, and there are safety measures that you can put in place to do your very best to stay healthy. And I believe that this experience, as someone who didn't travel out of the country until I was much into my career, would have changed my educational experience had I had a chance to do it well. It's probably one of my biggest regrets of undergrad is that I did not do study abroad. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the MSI 3 grant as it stands, with the caveat that if the committee elects, which it would be their purview to change the use of that particular amount, they can bring their desired use of that amount back to College Council. All in favor, if you indicate by raising your hands. Are there any, and so if you would lower your hands, are there any, anyone want to abstain? Anyone in opposition? Hearing none, or seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Caesar, if we can share the agenda. There are some important dates. We have our upcoming City College campus board meeting, which will be virtual, but the constituency group members, we would love you to join us in person if you are comfortable doing so. If not, please notify Caesar and I. That board meeting is on Thursday, October 7th, which is next week. We do have a practice scheduled for this week and next week. The Association of Community College Trustees Conference will be in town October 13th through the 16th. We will be hosting a couple of events on our campus to include a tour. We are one of the host campuses. Here it lists the Chancellor's Forum as November 1st. That has now officially been changed to, I want to say, November the 8th. So if you can make that change, Caesar, we will send an update. The Chancellor's Forum is an opportunity where the Chancellor comes, provides a budget update, and takes questions. That same day, the Board of Trustees will be here and they have open office hours. So if you would like to interact with our Board of Trustees, if you'd like to interact with our Chancellor, I invite you to join us during the Chancellor's Forum on November the 8th. There'll be flyers coming out about that. Veterans Day program on 11/10. I know Marciano and his team, Dora and the Veterans Group, are working on a refresh of our new Veterans Center. I look forward to seeing what that looks like. The annual holiday party is in December. Spring Convocation, where we hope to unveil the land acknowledgement. The PD group, they're working on that, and just some other dates that are out there. Are there any other announcements or roundtable for the good of the order? If you could unshare any other announcements or updates that the committee, College Council rather, would, unlike Marciano, committee, task force. Susan, yes.
This Friday morning will be the kickoff to our next accreditation cycle. We will be having our staff liaison from ACCJC here or with us virtually to lead a workshop. And that information's been sent out to the DL. But if you need a copy, please let me know. Everyone is welcome. We've also reached out to the leadership of our constituency groups and people in some key roles around campus.
Great, thank you, Susan. Any other updates? I know Marciano and his team are working on an update for the reorganization for student services. We have a goal of that coming to College Council by December, but it'll go on the road show before then, I believe beginning with the Student Services Council, then going to the Academic Senate, Classified Senate, until it makes its way to College Council. We are down a dean, which requires us to realign some positions in his area. We have a number of recruitments that are out there: photography, psychology, several dean positions. Victoria, if you don't mind coming off mute, if you would like to ask that question, raise that question. Well, I'm not sure if Victoria, who is our student government president, can come off of mute, which she says she's not able right now, but she's asking about water dispensers. I'm going to ask John Parker, who is our Vice President of Administrative Services, Victoria. We will put that on a future agenda, but in the meantime, I'll ask John Parker to reach out to the student government and provide an update. I met with the student government this week. We have an amazing president in Victoria, but the rest of the committee is equally amazing, and they are working on a project that is so important that it makes you wonder why we're not already doing this. And I don't want to steal their thunder because they're putting it together, and at a future College Council meeting, I'm going to ask Victoria to present what they would like to do. And I've already said yes. So John Parker, write a good check for those resources, but it's not on the agenda, Victoria. So we're going to put it on the agenda in a future meeting once you've had a chance to meet with John Parker. But something that they're wanting to do is just one of those things that you scratch your head and wonder, why haven't we done this already? So I'm already impressed with how they're thinking and how they're wanting to help not only students, but employees of the college who could benefit from what it is they're wanting to do. We are getting a lot of questions about water and the faucets. We're going to put that on a future agenda. That's not as easy, but what I will say very quickly is I've requested that John Parker order pallets of water, and he's assured me that it's either here or coming. And so in a future meeting, we'll place that on the agenda. It'll have to be in a month because the next College Council meeting on October 12th is going to be dedicated to providing an update about our great HUBU program led by Rashid, and a host of others, Dr. Savage. I know I'm missing some names, but our HUBU conference. And then we're going to spend the rest of the College Council meeting developing goals led by one of our colleagues, Al, Dr. Al, as we affectionately call him. And so the next College Council, we won't have as many agenda items. In fact, we'll only have 2. But Victoria, I promise you in a month, that'll give John Parker ample time to provide an update on water. And I hope, Victoria, by then the ASG will be positioned to provide an update on the project that you all would like to do on behalf of your fellow students and the employees at San Diego City College. Any other updates? Hearing none, I'd like to conclude with a couple of things. One, we have a lot of things going on, very positive things, very challenging things going on in this pandemic. And I sent an email out moments ago, and I want to encourage everyone to read it, but I also want to apologize to Kelly Mayhew or anyone who may have been impacted by the AFT notes that are listed there. I want to be clear that we have, as one of the highest goals during this pandemic, is to get you all the things you need. And so the AFT hosted a meeting where concerns were brought forth, and they were legitimate concerns. And we are working around the clock to address those concerns. And so I sent the notes out because they seemed reasonable to me. And our Vice President, Tilly Chavez, is working with the other vice presidents to assign the concerns to managers and people who can help address them, right? And so I want to formally and humbly apologize if there were names there or things that people didn't want out there. The only way we can help is if we know what the concerns and the problems are. And the concerns and the problems that I read seemed very reasonable that we would seek to address them. I can tell you earlier today, I was talking to John Parker, and my message is, look, we are sitting on millions of dollars. Get the things in the hands of the people who are helping our students, the people who are helping each other, so that we've got to be ready to support our students. And then lastly, in my conversation with Victoria, I've asked her to share her story, not today, but in the future, if she is willing, because I had goosebumps as she talked about her reality as a biology student, as a student leader who has a number of family members in her household with her, all of which are grappling with the Wi-Fi and finding a quiet place to study. And I believe that Victoria's story is indicative of a lot of our students who some of them may want to continue online. Some of them want to get back to campus so they can escape their little brothers and sisters who are studying alongside of them. But we have a very powerful story in our student government president. And in a future meeting, I'd ask if she's comfortable to share what she shared with me in terms of her lived experience trying to, biology is a tough subject. It requires you going into labs and having access to chemicals and things that frankly you just can't do at home. And so how do we forge a path forward for those students who have to be on campus given what they're studying or given their limited resources, access to Wi-Fi. I was meeting with the student government. Several of them lost their Wi-Fi during the meeting. Several of us lose our Wi-Fi during these meetings. That's why I'm in the office. I'm battling Wi-Fi with an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old, and my Wi-Fi loses every time. And I'm the president of the college. So with that said, we have some more information. Caesar's going to be working with the student government because I think that we need to get the story of our students out so that each of us really hear what it is they're going through every single day when they decide to commit to coming to San Diego City College. So Victoria, thank you. And thank each of you on College Council. That'll conclude our meeting. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Take care.